Hey, Matt, we're on.
Something about Oak Lake?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome all of you to the November 14th, 2018 meeting of the Ascension Parish Planning Commission. I would ask that everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please let the record reflect that all commissioners are present with the exception of Mr. Chasson, who is sick tonight, and Mr. Christie, who was caught at work in Baton Rouge. He's trying to make it back for our meeting. Can I get an introduction of staff, please?
Stacy Webb, Secretary for Planning and Development.
Cody Martin, the Attorney for the Planning Commission.
Jerome Fournier, Director of Planning and Development.
Eric Poche, Parish Planner.
Lance Brock, Zoning Official.
Sean Chereau, Engineering Review Agency.
All right, thank you. Before we go any further, this is not the zoning meeting. That'll start after this meeting. But I do want to make an announcement about the zoning meeting. If you are here for items 5A and 5B on the zoning agenda, that concerns the rezoning of land off of Cornerview Road from medium-intensity residential to mixed-use corridor. There's 2 lots for consideration that were on the agenda. Those items have been pulled from the agenda, so we are not taking up any rezoning off of Cornerview Road tonight. So if you're here for that, you can stay. You're more than welcome. But if you have better things to do, you're not missing anything. All right, moving on to the chairman's comments, and I have no comments, but I would like to turn it over to Mr. Fournier for an update on the master plan.
Yes, CPEX is not here tonight. They're having their Smoke Grow Conference in Baton Rouge. I'd recommend anybody who has an opportunity to attend that. It's a well-thought-of event every year at the Shaw Center. Regarding the master land use plan, I'd like to invite everyone to the Master Plan Open House that's going to be held Wednesday, November 28th at 5:30, between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. The Wednesday event's going to be at the Gonzales Civic Center, 219 South Irma Boulevard. And following Thursday, November 29th, we will have another a Master Plan Open House at Lowry Elementary School in Donaldsonville, the same hours. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fournier. All right, item number 6 is public comment on any agenda item. If you're here to speak and want to address on any agenda item, obviously for the public hearings, we're going to have a opportunity for you to be heard on that. But is there anyone to speak on any other agenda item tonight? All right, moving on to item number 7 is the general business, and then item number 8, the minutes. I need a motion to approve or deny the minutes and written decisions of the October 10th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Schexnayder, second by Mr. Furman. All in favor? Aye. Any in opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item number 9A is a public hearing to approve or deny the following variance request. 9A is Oak Lake Subdivision Phases 2 and 3 Final Plat Request for a variance from the Ascension Parish Regulations, Section 17408.C, acceptance of improvements and posting of maintenance bond. Mr. Lambert, yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Yeah, my name is Jake Lambert. I'm with D.R. Horton. I'm here tonight to revoke my request for a variance and also revoke my request for final plat approval. Until next month, we'll come before the board and seek final plat approval. One item that I would like to seek a clarification on is the conditions for final approval based on the preliminary plat approval in December of 2015. I'd like to get some clarification on that item.
All right, sure, and I'll be happy to do that, and I'll let any of the other commissioners that want to speak on this to do that. So on December 9th, 2015, this matter, the Oak Lake subdivision came before the Planning Commission at that time, and as I recall the events transpiring, there was a recommendation by the engineering staff that by the time we got to phases 2 and 3, or for final plat approval, that the traffic impact study required either a roundabout to be constructed, which the hope was DOTD would have that roundabout constructed by now, which obviously they have not, or in lieu thereof, a turn lane being constructed into the subdivision. I've reviewed the minutes, and I actually made the motion to approve the preliminary plat subject to the stipulation that by the time we got to final plat approval, there either be the roundabout or turn lane made to enter the subdivision. Now, I know, Jake, there's been some dealings with the Transportation Committee since that time, and that a lane has been constructed that's not necessarily a turn lane. However, I will tell you this, at the time, I'm sure that my thought process, based on the engineering review staff recommendation, was that we needed a turn lane or the roundabout to address the public health, safety, and welfare needs of that corridor of roadway. There's nothing that I've seen to change my opinion about that, and I will be quite honest with you. We made this stipulation for a specific reason. We have done that subsequently to other developers. Just 2 months ago, there was a developer here. We had almost the identical stipulation to the motion to approve it. And so if there's not a roundabout or a turn lane, I'm going to be very hard-pressed to vote to approve any final plat approval on that project. Because that was a stipulation. And it's not because I'm trying to be hard on you or hard on development. I favor development as a general rule. However, there is a safety concern here. And in addition, if we started ignoring these stipulations or going back on them 3 years later, then they really have no force. And I'm just not willing to do that for all of those reasons. So that's my position on it. And if one of the other commissioners, I know Mr. Bishop was here, I don't think the other commissioners were here at this time, but they can address that as well.
Sure, I'd like to address those comments if I could.
Sure.
So just to kind of take a step back, obviously, I wasn't involved in this project when it got initially approved. But since that meeting in December of 2015, I believe it was, the parish has instituted a traffic impact fee program, right, where developers contribute a certain value per lot that goes into a parish fund that subsequently gets utilized for public infrastructure improvements, right, private dollars for public infrastructure improvements. Everybody agrees is a good thing. And one of the ways that those dollars can be administered is either through a pot of money goes to the parish, they choose the project and spend it however they want, or the owner, the project developer, can work in coordination with the parish and the local agencies and jurisdictional authorities to develop a project that everybody agrees upon is good, to spend that money and implement a physical improvement more immediately than maybe pooling the money on the back end. The impact fees are paid when the building permit is approved, so it takes a long time for that pot of money to stack up, whereas a developer can choose to make an improvement, spend the money up front, and then implement the project, and then as the building permits are pulled, the credits are achieved to the developer. But in the process of the parish instituting that improvement, we recognized that there are two projects occurring right here on this stretch of roadway, one of which was in motion way before our project was. As you guys are quite aware, the Conway development is planning some road improvements that include a very large roundabout and obviously the approaches that lead up to the roundabout. And so when we started reviewing our approval of this subdivision, we were going to be required to install a right turn lane into the subdivision, which we all admit is a good thing. But we were going to install it, pay the money, a couple $100,000, actually a little more than that, install the right turn lane, and then a couple months later, because of the other project, the roundabout, which has nothing to do with my project, they were going to have to come in and rip it all up and then build the roundabout. And so we tried to be proactive. We reached out to the planning staff. We reached out to the Department of Transportation. As a matter of fact, the city of Gonzales is involved in this, and the parish administration. We said, look, we can better spend this money, this $280,000, by paying that into traffic impact fees. And then we will, in addition to that, we will utilize the credits to widen Highway 44 to connect from the north end of the adjacent properties project all the way up our property line, basically widen Highway 44 725 feet. We worked hand in hand with the planning staff, like I said, the parish administration, the parish council. We implemented this program. We got it approved through the traffic impact fee credit agreement that was vetted by the transportation committee, the parish council, signed off by the parish president, executed a permit through DOTD. We constructed the project, the road widening, which was, we got a letter of acceptance today from the Department of Transportation, and the funds for the right turn lane will be paid as impact fees, the difference in the impact fees. So we feel like we've done everything we're supposed to do and more, and we've worked very diligently, maybe with everybody involved, with the exception of maybe the person that made the motion, and we would like to understand what we need to do to get final approval of this subdivision. We're not seeking final approval tonight. We're seeking clarification.
I understand, and all I can say to that is there's been a lot of changes to the ordinances since I've been on this commission. I think all for the better with the impact fees this year.
We're the first project to go through with that, by the way.
impact fees.
Something we're quite proud of.
There's been a lot of changes to the traffic impact studies and giving them more force, and I think all of that is good. The problem that I have is all of this is contingent upon a roundabout coming, which has been coming for 3 years, and which in the history of DOTD may be coming for another 10 years. And so, if they were building the roundabout, I'd be a lot more comfortable with it. My problem currently is that there's no way to funnel traffic off of 44 currently into a turn lane or through a roundabout. And Jake, I understand what y'all have done, and I commend you for doing that and being proactive with the council and the transportation committee. But there's still not a way to get in there, which was part of the condition that we had, and it's a money thing, but it's a safety thing more so than anything else. So I would say I'm gonna look at this more closely, and I've been considering very intensely over the past few days. But I would like to see the turn lane there. That's what I made the motion conditioned on, or stipulated on, and I'm not inclined right now with what I have to change any of.
So what we should have done as developers, what you're saying, is put $280,000 into a right turn lane that is going to get ripped out in 2 months when this project.
If it gets ripped, if the roundabout is coming in 2 months, but it could be 10 years down the road. I mean, Highway 44, how long was that supposed to be being widened? They're still working on it. I just don't have any confidence.
That's a DOTD project.
Well, I think the roundabout's a DOTD
No,
project.
sir. The roundabout that we're talking about is being instituted by the developer across the street, Conway Plantation, which is their own project.
And
But it is underway and being
have they
worked
even
on.
started on it yet?
I don't have the particulars of their project, but as I appreciate it, they're bidding the project right now.
We've been hearing roundabouts on Highway 44 for a long time, and until I
There's
see
a big
it,
difference between the DOTD roundabouts
I understand.
and the ones funded through the private investment of traffic impact fees.
I understand.
Were we to do this again, we probably would have written the check for the impact fees because it's messy and because there are 2 different entities trying to work this out and 2 different contractors that are going to be on site, which is another reason why we pushed real hard to get our guy in there, get it done. We've done the right thing. We did exactly what we were supposed to. We did what the agreement signed off by the Transportation Committee, the Parish Council, the Louisiana Department of Transportation, the City of Gonzales. Everybody's asked us to do. We moved utilities, we've donated right away, we've dedicated servitudes.
But you didn't do what we asked you to do.
Okay?
That's the thing. We asked for the turn lane. And I would say the needle might move if we had somebody saying, "Oh yeah, we're starting. No doubt, we are starting that roundabout construction in 2 months." Then it's a little bit different. But we don't know
should I-
when we don't know when that is.
So tomorrow, should I instruct my engineer to go and start designing and getting a permit on a right turn lane that's going to get ripped out immediately after, and then that money will not be in the traffic impact fee fund, and it disappears as soon as the next project moves forward? I mean,
Mr.
that does
Dumas-
not seem
Mr.
like,
Dumas has a
that does
question
not
on this.
seem like the best utilization of the goals of the program that the parish has put in place.
But Jake, you realigned the ditch, and you built this section of the road.
Yes, sir.
And if what you explained to me yesterday is correct, they're going to come back and they're going to mill the top of this, and they're going to resurface it, right? Wouldn't they would have done the same thing with the turn lane. They were not going to tear it down. They were really simply
sir.
resurface it.
No, sir, and it's a good question, but it's a different alignment and it's at a different elevation. So it would have been, we looked at it, we
All right.
investigated all these. These are serious questions that deserve a serious answer, but.
All right, so they would have built on that existing base that you would have had. They would, whatever they would have done, they would have leveraged most of the work that you would have done. The permit for the improvements to 44, from what I got from DOTD, has been out for quite some time. They did ask for some modifications, and which I'm sure would have impeded a little bit, but it's been out for quite some time. The negotiations that you did with the Transportation Subcommittee, from speaking to a couple of the folks there, at no point where the Planning Commission conditions of approval, ever part of the discussion as far as from their perspective. I wasn't there, so I'm just sharing somebody else's perspective.
Well, Councilman Satterley was in the chamber. I saw him. He's the chairman of the Transportation Committee. Maybe he could shed some light on whether it was their intent to forego the turn lane requirement that we put in there.
No, I don't think he is.
He was here.
Anyway, and from what I understand from DOTD,
It was,
as
and
I
I
see-
can explain why, but go ahead.
as I look at the condition of approval, it just said a turn lane. And from my perspective, when I make a motion like that, I don't specify the distance because it's a state highway, and no matter what I spec, DOTD is going to rule. And it's my understanding that DOTD's requirement of you on the turn lane was to do the whole length of the property. Or at least that's what the information that I got. And Jerome, maybe you can, advise me of that.
That's not correct, and I can provide the data on why that is. First of all, to address your statement about that the turn lane was expected as part of the traffic impact fee credit agreement.
This is the agreement that you made with the Transportation Committee?
With the parish
Yeah.
government, yes, sir. I've got a copy of it right here, and on Exhibit B, it specifically lists the projected project cost of the travel lane at $668,696. That's engineers' estimates on the project cost. And then, which, by the way, these numbers will be audited once the project is complete. The turn lane is listed as the cost, and then the right turn lane of a standard length, which is what Mr. Dumas is referring to, which is dictated by the highway speed geometry, DOTD requirements, right, of $280,543 is subtracted from that, right? So it's very clear that we were not expected to build that, but those funds would go into those impact fees would not be credited, would actually be paid by the builder, the developer, upon the building permit fee.
Jake,
So
let
that's
me make a
pulled out.
clarification on that, though. I don't think the expectation was that you didn't build it. I think the expectation was you wasn't going to get credit for it because that was already what was required by DOTD.
Okay?
And Jerome can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
No, that is correct, Cody.
Okay.
The total cost in Exhibit B that you see is that there's $668,696. and that's the travel lane per DOTD. What we would not give them credit for is an ordinary turn lane that goes into their project. So what we assumed and when we did this calculation was that we would subtract out what would be an ordinary turn lane, because that is not allowable for credit under the traffic impact fee program. So the traffic impact fees, basically, we're giving them credit for the additional extension of that traffic lane as was originally proposed.
So what about the statement that the traffic impact fee, the money paid would be sufficient to build the turn lane?
Well, basically,
Is that what you said, Jake? I don't want to misquote you.
I'm not following your question.
I thought you said when you were talking just a few minutes ago that the traffic impact fee is sufficient to construct that turn lane.
There's no credit for that because there's no turn lane being constructed.
Okay.
Those fees
so
are
basically
still being paid. That's
what the negotiation was, that anything that was extended beyond what their ordinary requirement would be to put a right turn lane into the project would be eligible for credit. And that's what the credit agreement states. It went before the Transportation Committee and was approved. We went to the Parish Council and it was approved back in
So what about the
January.
turn lane in this agreement? And I have a copy of this agreement that was made with the Transportation Committee. What about the turn lane? Was there ever the intent that the condition that we put upon it, that by the time we got to this phase of the project, there'd either be a roundabout or a turn lane? Was that ever addressed or contemplated in this agreement?
That was not, no.
Okay, so this has no bearing on the stipulation that we put on back in December of 2015?
We didn't consider that in the,
So the expectation was that the turn lane would be constructed?
that was.
Or
the
in
construction
lieu thereof, a
documents-
roundabout?
The construction documents that are approved by the parish don't show the turn lane. There's no turn lane was anticipated to be constructed because we were doing these improvements in and above the required amount.
Well, I would like to know,
I'd love to have some
and I would tell you
clarification.
this, I would like to know, I mean, the Transportation Committee, correct me if I'm wrong, basically the council reorganized, correct?
Correct. The transportation is composed of several members of the parish council. It was approved at the Transportation Committee level, but then it went to the full council for approval.
Well, I would like to know from the parish council if they have, if their intent was to override and supersede the stipulated approval that we made in December of 2015 by entering into this agreement.
Yeah.
And by the way, the DOTD permit that was applied for, based on this agreement, has no turn lane in it. It has a road widening of 725 feet in it, which is what this document is based upon.
I know, I get what you're saying, but what I'm trying to come to terms with, I mean, we made a stipulation, we made an approval subject to a very specific stipulation. Now, if the council, who are the elected officials, and obviously they sit over us, if they say that stipulation is, and the Transportation Committee and the council ultimately says, we don't care about that stipulation, we don't want that stipulation in there, we want you to approve this because we have this traffic, we have this agreement that got you to build that 700-foot lane, then that's something that I think we should consider. I understand what you're saying about the roundabout, and Jake, honestly, if I saw a roundabout being built, I'd be good. I'd probably be in favor of it if I
I'd be
actually
happy.
saw the roundabout being built.
I'd be
or
more
saw
happy.
plans for a roundabout.
Yeah.
But I've
Again,
driven there many
again.
times. I haven't seen a roundabout yet, and it's been talked about. So
understand.
that's where I stand. And look, things may change in 30 days. My mind isn't made up on this yet, but that's my position on it right now. So I don't know if I can be clearer, but that's where I stand on these.
Next month, we'll be before this board with the subdivision 100% complete, and we'll be seeking final plat approval.
Okay.
We appreciate you
Thank
guys'
you. Thank you, Jake.
consideration in this matter, and we look forward to the discussions.
Okay.
Thank you, Jake.
All right, and item 9B.
Well, Matt, look, as we've done in the past, whenever there's been a revocation and we have a public hearing set, we go ahead and allow everybody to speak who wants to speak, just with the understanding that there's going to be no vote on the issue tonight.
Is anybody signed up, Ms. Stacy, to speak on item 9A on the agenda? Yes, sir. Mr. Robert, I think it is. Yes, sir. You have the option to come and speak now, even though we're going to take no action tonight, or you can come back next month. It's all, you'd like to come now? Okay. And as always, with all the public hearings that we have, please remember that we would like to get out of here tonight, so please limit your comments to 3 minutes. There's a little clock in front of me and in front of you, so the floor is yours.
And what I have to say is kind of short and sweet. There's a couple of things I want to address. First of all is the turn lane and the roundabout. And I appreciate all the work and the effort y'all put into this, but we have to look at the reason for this turn lane and the roundabout. And that is, I happen to live a quarter mile down the road from there, and the safety of myself and my children is dependent on a turn lane or a roundabout being there. It's not dependent on if you spend all kinds of money or if the parish is going to help you with this or anything else. It's dependent on, we have got to have the infrastructure for the amount of people, plus the more amount of people that are going to be approved to go in there, to be able to live safely. That's what I mean, all this other stuff is great, but like you said, you have to have a turn lane or a roundabout. Neither one are there. Also, I feel like we forgot in the last contingency that D.R. Horton donate right-of-way, public right-of-way for DOTD improvements. And has that been done? That has been done?
Yeah,
That has been done.
Okay, because I was told otherwise, but okay, great. All right, well, I appreciate it. And like I said, I commend y'all for all the work you did, but it's more so about the safety of the citizens and the parish.
Yeah, Cody got it. It's been done. I think we noted that. Okay. Well, let me bring you back in a minute.
Yeah.
Ms. Stacy, is anyone else signed up to speak?
Yes, Jeff Pettit,
Mr. Pettit, would you like to speak now? You're going to wait till next month? Okay.
Kimberly Christie,
Ms. Chris? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Teresa Robert,
Ms. Robert, same, you can speak now or speak next month or
Are you
both?
sure you can not keep us from speaking at each meeting when this has been discussed and something's up here?
No, ma'am, I'm not speaking, I'm not keeping you from speaking.
Well, I'm just saying I'd like to speak tonight, and I may choose to speak again because there may be new information and stuff. So
You may
I'll be
speak next
quick.
month if we have a public
Okay.
hearing. Yes,
Well, I'll
ma'am.
be quick. And I'd just like to say, again, I live out there also, and I'm very concerned about this Oak Lake. As you can see, I really appreciate you tonight speaking up for the people out there because it is a terrible road. At the moment, we seem to be okay because the Sunshine Bridge is closed down. Our traffic is greatly decreased. It's a shame that they can't go ahead and do their lanes now because they were working on this lane this past week, and they had the opportunity. We were stopped several times. So thank you. We need it for our safety out there, and not only our safety there, but tonight, speaking of this issue, it's all the other issues across this parish that we have inadequate infrastructure. We don't have to tell y'all that. You know that. You live here. And I just want to mention also on 44, you happened to mention, or one of you, I'm not sure who mentioned it, about Highway 44 being resurfaced about 10 years ago. And we're back. We are full of potholes. They're out there every month filling them. And not only do we have the potholes, but we have the indentions again. When it rains and the tires are going through, we're having water in those tire indentions now. So this road is a lot worse than what we're looking at here. So again, I think it's sort of sad that maybe the developer's having a problem, but citizens suffer consequences every single day that we travel these roads, not only on 44, but across this parish. It costs us financially, it costs us with wear and tear of our car, loss of time that none of us have extra time anymore. There's so many things playing into that. And again, I just want to thank you for your comments again tonight. No, he talked about traffic impact fees, and I understand him talking about the state looking at other transportation options here, but we're talking about human lives, and we appreciate y'all. Thank you.
That's it. Okay. Jake, you want to address those real quick? Okay. We'll move on to item 9B. I believe that's been pulled from the agenda before we started. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
From a phone call that we had this afternoon, that item has been asked to be pulled. Right.
You got anybody to speak, they'll let them speak.
Has anybody signed up to speak on item 9B? This is the Melgrave subdivision final plat. Anyone?
I'm Seth Mosby with Quality Engineering. We're
Okay,
survey
hold on.
engineers.
Let's get straight on with this.
Yes,
Still-
we had a call from the applicant this afternoon,
Pretty
with
Malone
Mr.
son.
Dumas,
Right.
and we had been asked to have that item pulled from the agenda.
Grady?
Mr. Malasson called.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I'll tell you what we'll do, we probably need a motion to do this, but if you want to, Josh, go out and confirm that it's been pulled, call Mr. Malasson, and we'll put you,
We can revisit it.
and we'll revisit. Let me get a motion from the commission
To suspend it, maybe?
to suspend this till we get to the end of the agenda, so
So
you
moved.
can make sure. I don't want to put you in a bind. And
Yeah, it's just a miscommunication.
do we have a
on our part
motion
that
to hold 9B over till the end of the meeting?
So moved.
All right, you got a motion by Mr. Dumas, second by Mr. Bishop. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
so
Apologize for
take
this,
your time, and we'll let you know
miscommunication.
when it's back up. Okay. Item number 10 is the consent agenda. Is 10A, that's no longer on the consent agenda? It has lines to it.
was pulled, we got a letter,
Yeah. 10B is a affidavit of mortgage declaration for Joseph C. Sanchez, 5 acres at 42427 Highway 621, Gonzales, Louisiana. Item number 10C is an affidavit of mortgage declaration for Whitney Sheets, tract B3A1 13161, Arthur Lambert Road in Sandoval. Item 10D is an affidavit of mortgage declaration for the Shivers Brothers of Louisiana LLC, Lot 8A on Della Marchand Road in Gonzales. Item 10E is an affidavit of mortgage declaration for Elliot and Rachel Wagisback, Lot A1C at 13451 Sullivan Lane in Gonzales. And item 10F is an affidavit of mortgage declaration for Wendy W. Weidman and Jerry Weidman, Lot 10B, 11 and .869 acre tract at 13380 George Rouillet Road in Gonzales. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Second?
Moved by Mr. Furman, second by Mr. Dumas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, moving on then to item number 11 is a public hearing to approve or deny the following family partitions. Item number 11A is the Riley Denham property, lots 5C3A and 5C3B. Earls and Associates, Mr. Falgout.
James Falco representing Earls and Associates on the following family partition for Ms. Denham. Asking the commission for approval.
Staff?
Yes, the subdivision meets requirements of the code. There were no comments.
Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak on this, this issue? No, we will open a public hearing, and we will close the public hearing as no one has signed up to speak. Commission, do we have questions, comments, and/or a motion?
I take it the covered porch and whatever the CP is, I guess it's a parking area, it's not going to remain a...
Yeah, it's all existing non-conforming structures. They're not permanent structures, they're
Okay.
kind of temporary.
Okay, a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Dumas, second by Mr. Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none. Item number 11B is the Wilbert White property, lots B2A1 and B2A2. Mr. Falgout, Earls and Associates.
Yes, representing Mr. Mike Gonzalez on the following partition, asking the commission for approval.
Staff?
It meets the code, and as soon as all items have been addressed on the plat, we would recommend approval.
We will open a public hearing on this matter. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak? Nobody has signed up to speak. We will close the public hearing. Commission, questions, comments, and a motion.
I just have a question on the access. Do those driveways exit the property line onto somebody else's property?
Somewhat, yeah. It's an existing 40-foot, so technically the existing 40-foot does connect to Ridge Road, but yeah, it goes right across the little drainage canal that way.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Dumas, second.
Second.
By Mr. Schexnayder, all in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 11C is the, thank you, Mr. Falgout. Item number 11C is the Rebecca Guitro property, lots Y1, A1, and Y1, A2. Mr. Quimall.
Good evening. All comments have been addressed, requesting planning commission approval.
Before I ask staff, is that Earls and Associates jacket you have on tonight?
It is.
I'm just making one. Staff?
Yes, it meets requirements of the code, and all comments have been addressed.
All right, we'll open a public hearing on this. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Tim Babin.
Mr. Babin? Yes, sir. Nothing to say? Okay. Anyone else, Ms. Stacy?
Stephen Brock.
Good evening, sir. Thanks, Stephen
I'll
Brock.
leave this up here for you.
I'm in favor of it. I'm just a neighboring property owner, and we in the past had a subdivision as well to the north, or just to adjacent to me as well, that didn't address the drainage situation quite like they should have. So my only concern is in the future, as they develop or whatever their plans are for this property, that the drainage would not increase to the neighboring that wouldn't otherwise naturally flow that direction.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, but by operation of law, they can't develop the property to increase the drainage off the
Can
flow.
or cannot?
They cannot.
They cannot.
Cannot.
Thank
They're not going to get anywhere with the parish if they're going to increase, unless they show in engineering plans that there's no increased drainage off that property.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else, Ms. Stacy?
Alan Childress.
Mr. Childress?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Alan Childress. I'm the Vice President of the Homeowners Association of the Lakes at Oak Grove Homeowners Association. With regards to the requested change, we as the board would encourage you to deny this request due to the danger it would present to the subdivision. The land in question is currently landlocked, having no frontage on any street either inside or outside the subdivision. The only way a driveway could be routed to the property would be by connecting to the existing driveway on the current property. This would add to an already hazardous curve where numerous accidents have occurred, including at least 2 cars going up in a front yard of one house and 1 mailbox having been destroyed a minimum of 4 times over the last 5 years. The streets in the subdivision are fairly narrow, and any increase in traffic, especially during any construction, would present both an inconvenience and an increased safety hazard due to the large number of small children in the neighborhood. This is unacceptable. Finally, the owner of the property under review was the original owner of the land that the subdivision sits on. At that time, he was aware of the constraints and restrictions placed on his current property resulting from the sale to the developers. Now he wants to rewrite the rules and place undue hardship on the subdivision and its residents. We find this unacceptable. We, the board of the Lakes at Oak Grove Homeowners Association, for the reasons I've listed, ask that you deny the owner's request and place a permanent injunction on dividing the property so as to ensure that the residents of the subdivision can be certain of the safety and preservation of our neighborhood. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Chung Wong.
Mr. Wong? You said Chung Wong? Mr. Wong? Mr. Chung Wong? He left? Okay.
Si Young Zhang.
Mr. Zhang? Mr. Zhang? Okay. Anyone else?
Yi Poon.
Mr. Poon? Mr. Yi Poon? They left too? Okay.
And Jack Wong.
Mr. Wong? Mr. Jack Wong? Anyone else, Ms. Stacy? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this matter. All right. Mr. Quimon, do you want to address any of those issues, please?
Other than the fact that it has an existing driveway, an existing residence there, I mean, you're talking about a single 2-acre lot compared to every other house. I mean, there's houses close by in proximity. I mean, if accidents occur because of a curve, I don't know what one single residence coming out of an existing driveway would have any increase in danger whatsoever. And there's already an existing driveway. We're talking about a 2-acre lot, larger than any subdivision line in the subdivision.
And this is
is not like a subdivision. This is
a
just
true family
partition.
Yeah, this is a true family partition.
Ms.
so-
Guitro's giving the the new lot to a family member?
Miss Rebecca, correct. Not even the existing owner.
Where is this subdivision the previous speaker mentioned? Is that the
This
lots we see
subdivision right
over
here.
the corner up here?
Yeah, it is.
12 Oaks.
Ira Babbitt Road is the entrance to that large subdivision.
Let me ask you a question. You know, the driveway right now into a proposed track 2A cuts across the adjacent lot number 1, and there appears to be some encroachments there. Is there common ownership between the 1 acre lot and the proposed track 2A?
You mean A2? Are you leaving off the Y1, A2?
I think it's the wrong one.
That's what I want.
And neither one of them's 1 acre.
Yeah, we must be looking at
This one, that's a different one.
Oh.
Yeah, all we have is this sheet, doesn't show us, does it? This is right here.
Oh.
Neutral.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong plat for a second. I had it folded over. No, we don't have that subdivision.
Yeah, I don't see a subdivision in close proximity to this lot, so I'm not sure.
Are they gonna share the same?
I see those lots on the
Are they gonna
corner
share
up
the
there.
same driveway, or are you gonna build an adjacent driveway to it?
It really wasn't discussed. I would assume because it's parent to child, I mean, child to parent, that it would be the same driveway, but that really wasn't discussed.
Is Ira Babbitt Drive a parish road or state road? That's
should be a parish.
parish road.
That's Parish Road. Yeah, the only reason we had to do a family project is they just didn't have the appropriate frontage for that particular zoning.
Right. No problem with it.
That's the problem with it.
Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move to
Oh,
approve.
Make a motion
to approve. I would ask that they just keep one curb cut on Ira Drive, because that would minimize, because that is a pretty interesting curve.
Okay, yeah.
So we have a motion to approve. Are you gonna make it subject to that?
Yeah, subject to
contingency?
only having one curb cut.
All right, motion to approve with a condition upon that by Mr. Dumas. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 11D is the Devon Philippi property, tracks 2A, 2B, and 2C. Mr. Quinlan.
Yes, all comments have been addressed and asking for planning commission approval.
Staff?
Yes, it meets the requirements of the code, and all comments have been addressed.
We're going to open a public hearing on this. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing.
This is the one I was thinking about on the lot 1, that 1 acre, 1.0 acre lot.
Okay, so we were looking at this one?
Yeah.
Actually, I think they're going to do the driveway actually where the servitude is.
So they're gonna relocate it over there.
They're gonna to put it over there.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. What about those structures? Are they encroaching from one lot to the other? Or those two properties in common ownership?
They are in common ownership and they are encroaching. It's just the owner didn't choose to incorporate that lot into the other portion.
Okay.
But yes, it is under the current same ownership.
So long as they're in common ownership, it'd be a non-conforming use. Okay,
That's correct.
right?
You gonna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Dumas, second by Mr. Bishop. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 11E is the Shirley S. Jackson and Francine M. Stevens property, lots 2A, 1A1, 2B1A, and S1 and S2. Mr. Quinlan.
Yes, this particular plat has come before y'all before. The client wanted to simplify the plat, and so we have adjusted the plat accordingly, what you see before you, in order to simplify, to keep the official transfers of ownership simple, and so that's why we're here before you again today.
Yes, it meets all requirements of the code.
Open a public hearing on this, Ms. Stacy. Nobody signed up to speak. We'll close the public hearing. Have a motion and/or questions or comments from the staff, commission.
If you guys want me to, if you look at the first original plat in your packet was original subdivision before anything was done. The second sheet is what is before you tonight, and the third sheet was the one that was approved at the August 8th meeting. You can see Lot S2 was created, and Mr. Stevens was gonna donate that lot to his daughter. That has been removed. So basically, you have, Mr. Charlie Stevens has his lot, and then Lot S1 and S2 are the only two new lots that are being created by the family partition. They wanted to clean it up a little bit and make it a little bit easier to do the transfers, as Mr. Quintmall said.
Eric, the only question I would have is, there's been no transfers done off of a previously approved map, correct?
No.
Okay.
What's the 30-foot servitude of passage? Is it any different? No, it's not different. It's the same. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same.
So you just made Lot W smaller and Lot S1 bigger.
Right.
Well, we reduced, it was actually gonna be 4 lots, and so and W was gonna have a lot in there, and so we just left W existing.
Right.
And then we simplified the lot lines by extending them off of 73 and kept the current ownership. In the previous plat, they were a little bit adjusted, and so there was some transfer issues with having to do double transfers in order to do the final. So the attorney suggested we simplify it, and that's exactly what we've done here.
We're good?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Scheck-Snyder to approve, second by Mr. Dumas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 11F is
Thank you.
Kyle
Have a good evening.
Brignac property, tracks A2A and A2B. Thank you, Mr. Quinmon. Alvin Fairburn and Associates.
Yes, sir. I'm Trent, and I'm representing Carl. And basically, all he's trying to do is take track A2 and cut it into two A2A and A2B, and keep one for himself and one to his son.
Yes, it meets all provisions of the code, and the comments have been addressed.
We'll open a public hearing on this, Ms. Stacy. Anybody? We'll close the public hearing. Any questions, comments, and/or motion by the commission? Motion to approve by Mr. Furman, second.
Second.
By Mr. Scheck-Snyder. Who got you first? All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. And finally, 11G, the Mitzi L. Thomasy property, lots 1 through 10, quality engineering and surveying.
I'm Seth Mosby with Quality Engineering and Surveying, here seeking approval of the plat you see before you from Miss Mitzi Thomasy off of Cannon Road.
Staff.
It does meet all provisions of the code, and the comments have been addressed.
Ms. Stacy, we'll open a public hearing. Anybody signed up to speak on this? We'll close the public hearing. Questions, comments, and/or motion?
Well, the only thing I got to say is that that's an awful lot of houses.
This is our first time coming to
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Then I'm going to go back and reopen the public hearing. And if you want to speak, you can be heard on that. I'd ask that you come up and give us your name and where you live so we have some context on this. How many do we have that want to speak on this?
I think
1, 2, 3,
Yeah, we were-
4, 5, 6. Okay. And please keep it to 3 minutes. That's fine.
Got it.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm Rachel Sherwood. We live directly across the street from the Thomasy property. We have several concerns with the property that they're trying to subdivide into the houses. Cannon Road is very narrow already. They can't even legally put a center lane down it because of it being so narrow. As you can see, we have 2 children here. Their cars, the the speed limit's 25, but cars go anywhere between 50 to 60. I have a cone in my front yard because my kids know that they can't even go past a certain point in our driveway because of the cars. All you're doing is opening up more traffic to Cannon Road because it is a throughway to Roddy, which they are gonna
It's actually a throughway all the way to 9.
well, yes,
431.
and they just sold 33 acres that is gonna be a I guess some type of one of those throw up house subdivisions that they're gonna start working on soon too. So there's another 300, 400 houses they're gonna put up. We're sitting on an acre. We like it there. We live out in the country because we don't want to be surrounded by people. We don't want to have 10 houses sitting across from us. I'm sure Mr. Thomasy is not happy. He's probably rolling over in his grave right now. There's a lot of congestion that'll be caused by this with the construction, I don't know what kind of houses they're proposing to build, but if you're trying to get families in there, you're not in a good school district. I don't know what kind of families they're going to try to get to go because we're in Carver School District. You're going to have either families that can afford to send their kids to private school, or it's going to be a lower income type. And then how are you going to propose these 1 acre lots with these big houses to lower income houses, to lower income families? I just don't understand what they're going to do, So that's what we have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'll try and get to y'all, so
So my name is Christopher Burke. I live across the street and a few houses over. My main concern for...
On which road, sir? Which road, sir? I'm sorry.
On Cannon Road.
Cannon Road, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My main concern is the condition of the road, how narrow it is, adding a subdivision or any subdivision that adds traffic to that road. As it is now, when I pass down the road, my struggle is to not go in the ditch. I have to slow down to about 15 miles an hour on every vehicle I pass and make sure that I'm riding the edge of the pavement. I know my neighbor has had his side mirror knocked off twice on this road, so I do not think it is suitable for adding subdivisions that need access off of Cannon Road. And that's my main concern.
Thank you, sir.
I think the most concern we have...
Please state your name first, I'm sorry.
Neil Wagasback.
Mr. Wagasback, thank you.
I live off of O'Neill Road, and I think one of the biggest concerns we have is the flooding issue. The parish can't drain O'Neill Road, which goes through that land, that drains through that land. So all that's going to do is just back up more. And I guess our issue is when we do flood, if you do approve this and we do flood, who's going to pay for our homes? Are y'all going to pay for them? Or is the developer going to pay for them?
But this isn't a developer, this is a landowner.
Well, I just want to know who's going to pay for them. I mean, y'all approving all this land, and y'all know we got flood issues. We got problems with flooding and draining. And like I say, they can't drain O'Neill Road, and you're going to back it up? That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Wagsback. Got a few more.
James Rawls, O'Neill Road too, about the drainage. This past flood, we got lucky we didn't flood, but the water backed up real bad in the ditches right there because it was the drainage passes through this property that they're trying to develop. Also on Cannon Road, what's the minimum on the width of the road that needs to be to put a subdivision? Is it 18 feet?
It's 18 feet.
And I don't even think we're pushing that on that. And they just widened the road probably about 5 months ago. Just barely enough, and put they was having so many people going off in the ditches, they actually put culverts in where everybody wouldn't drive off in the ditch, right there about between the four-way stop and the apartments. So they put culverts all the way down to keep people from running off in the ditch. They was having so many issues with that. We just can't handle the impact on the road, and the drainage is a lot of our issues, because if somebody starts filling them ditches up back there, Cannon Road starts backing up, and mine and father-in-law's house is right there in front of the ditch. And we get the water right first. You know, a good hard rain, we get water all in the yard till it drains off. So that's my issues with the water issues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Clyde Wagisback. I live on O'Neill Road. The parish has a drainage ditch passing through my property to the property in the back of it. Now, when it gets a hard rain, there's the open pasture on the left side of my house, approximately 3 acres. It floods enough so you can't see any grass at all. It's gotten in the back of my shed, and I don't know what you're going to do to improve the drainage when you put another subdivision draining into the same ditch. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Wagsback. Mr. Mosby, would you like to address those issues?
Yes, sir.
Well, before we do that, is anyone else here to speak on this issue? Going once, going twice, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing then. Mr. Mosby.
I understand those residents' concerns. Everyone in the parish has those concerns, but they keep calling this a development. This is not a development or full-blown subdivision. This is a private landowner wishing to divide her property and distribute it amongst her descending heirs. We are, as far as the ditch is concerned, we're dedicating the required right-of-way over that ditch so that it could be maintained. And as far as the houses being proposed, I don't know. I haven't spoken to all 10 of these grandchildren and daughters, but I doubt that they're building 10 houses at the same time. I don't know that. But they also keep talking about houses. They don't have to build houses. They can pull in mobile homes. They can, whatever meets the code, they can build. So some of these concerns, I believe, are unwarranted. And
Briefly.
I'm not one to hold my tongue, so, and he stated that these are being divided into heirs. This is not what I have been heard. I have heard that Chris Ingram and Roy Domain have been and had their hand in on this property. And they are trying to build houses on this property.
The application, and I'll just tell you what the application we have.
Please.
It says they're proposing a family partition of an unnamed lot, which is 12.127 acres, into Lot 1, Lot 2, Lot 3, Lot 4, all the way to Lot 10. Lot 1 is being retained by the current owner. Lot 2 is being donated to a daughter. Lot 3 is being donated to another daughter. Lot 4 is being donated to a grandson. Lot 5 is to another grandson. Lot 6 is to another grandson. 7 is to a granddaughter. 8 is to another grandson. 9 is to a grandson, and 10 is to a grandson. So it's all, and under the family partition rules, the donation has to go to a direct family member.
So they do, this, the real estate agent did say that they had a contract on this property. So I'm just trying to figure out where the gray area is between the black and white, because.
Who has a contract?
Who's
This is
the
all
real estate?
hearsay, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I spoke to the and she stated that there was a contingent contract on tonight. That there was
All right.
a contract that it would be a subdivision.
Okay.
Is
All right,
that-
and then, let's,
I spoke with Ms. Thomas.
I understand.
I spoke with Ms. Thomas's, real estate agent who told me this because I come home one day and there's
I understand what you're saying, ma'am, and we'll certainly take that into consideration. I mean, it is pure hearsay. What you heard somebody else say is, and we're not a court of law, but it's still, and I'm not challenging your credibility or anything, but there's a reason.
I'm not saying that this is correct.
But let's, I want to move on. We heard you, and I try not to deny people the opportunity to speak, but I don't want this to drone on and on and on. So we did hear you, and I think we have that, and Mr. Dumas has some questions I think he wants to ask of the developer.
Once they divide this and they give it all to the grandkids, and the grandkids think, okay, now we have it. Now we can build this policy.
They can sell it if they want, but Mr. Dumas, I think you.
That's what I was going to say. The code requires her to make that initial transaction to an heir, okay, a direct heir. What that heir does, with that property, they're not bound by anything. They can sell it. They can do whatever they want with it, which is the fallacy of a family partition, in my opinion. My problem with this thing is it's 10 lots. Most family partitions that we see, it's only 2 or 3 lots, okay? In a family partition, it's a subdivision. You can call it whatever you want. It's still the partition of land and the development of improvements, whether they're all-inclusive in accordance with the code or subject to the family partition variance. It's in the code. They're still meeting code. My issue with this is that, there comes a point when a gravel road is not sufficient. The traffic is too great. At some point there will be 10 residences here, whether it's 20 years from now when those grandchildren grow up and be adults or whether they sell them, there's going to be 10 residences here. And that constitutes a significant amount of traffic. So a gravel road is not going to be sufficient for me. I can't support this with a gravel road. I'm sorry, it's going to have to be a hard surface road. So at least it's close enough to what it can be.
Are there stipulations in the family partition ordinances that they have to construct a road at this time, or any ordinances saying it has to be hard surface? I don't believe that there are there?
I'll leave Eric to address that.
The code requires that anything over 3 lots be either hard surface or gravel road, and the commission can make that stipulation. It has to have ditches on either side for drainage, and it has to be constructed before the first building permit is issued. So, in other words, whatever road the commission deems sufficient for this subdivision of property before they get their first building permit, it's going to have to be constructed to the end of the property.
Mr. Poche, is there a time limit that they have to be in possession of the lots before they can resell
No,
it?
once the subdivision is completed, they make the acts of donation. Once the map is recorded, that lot is a marketable lot. It can be bought, sold, donated, or whatever. There are no restrictions on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously being divided up to make it in a minor subdivision. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
I don't have enough information to say that. I think that the public has brought hearsay evidence. It's troubling, but I still have to look at it as what the application is, and my concern is the amount of traffic on it. At 10 lots, that's a significant amount of cars. In today's environment, significant amount of cars.
Well, and I think the other consideration, because I drive down Cannon Road quite a bit, and it's 25, and I confess that I've been caught going over 25 on one occasion, no longer. It's a very beautiful road, and there's a lot of beautiful houses on it, and it is a very country feel, but it is a very narrow road, particularly between Roddy and O'Neill Lane. It is, and I travel that distance quite frequently, and I'm wondering if this were developed as a subdivision, what the traffic impact requirements would be.
What is it zoned right now?
This isn't a subdivision, it's a partition of
Well,
property.
I understand.
No, but we also have to look at what can happen.
I understand that, but a subdivision is a variance from the regular, or I'm sorry, a family partition is a variance from a regular subdivision. And I would agree with Mr. Dumas in that I can't say for sure this is a subdivision, but I also agree with Mr. Schexnayder. It sure does look like one when I'm looking at this plat right here. This is not our typical family partition.
What is it zoned right now?
Residential medium, RM.
So technically, they could put 4 houses per acre. Or is it 3? 3. So
You're talking about if they were doing a full residential to subdivision?
If we look ahead in 6 months, and in 6 months' time, land gets sold, and now you're looking at 12-point-something acres, give or take half an acre here and there for sewer treatment plants, stuff, we could easily see this to be a 25-lot subdivision, minor, 25-lot.
Is that, I want to clarify that. They can't build more than 3 acres or
3 houses per acre.
Okay, I know it's 3 houses per acre, but they can't subdivide this further. They would have to come.
Correct.
Each owner of the lot, I mean, I know they're 1 acre lots, but I don't think they can put 3 houses up there.
And they don't have enough. They don't have enough frontage. They would not have enough frontage to further subdivide.
Well,
the
let me get back to this
lots
plat
would be
that we have
allowed.
before us
That's
real
what I wanna
quick.
make sure.
You know, you've got these lines that are kind of skewed to each other that say apparent right-of-way line of Cannon, and it's certainly not a contiguous line. Do we not know where the right-of-way of Cannon Road is?
I don't know what the official recognized right-of-way width of Cannon Road. We can only tell what the apparent right-of-way is by what's being maintained by the parish, ditching, utilities, and that's what we're showing on our map. I don't know an official right-of-way width of Cannon Road.
Correct. Does the parish have that?
The parish does not have right-of-way maps for Cannon Road, if that's what you're asking. Basically, the right-of-way is assumed by surveyors through previous maps and property descriptions and conversations with DPW on the maintenance of each roadway.
But if this is approved tonight as a family partition, and say a developer or an investor goes to all of the heirs and purchases all these lots with the intention of the division, then he has to come before the planning department to.
He has to file, come back here, right?
And he has to file that, and he's under your scrutiny.
No, he doesn't.
No, he does not.
No, he does not.
He would not have to?
Mm-mm.
He could build.
No.
He could build 10 houses or 9 houses, however many lot. You could put one house on each lot.
Right.
It couldn't be developed into a subdivision without coming before us. In other words, you can't buy all the land and re-subdivide it. So without coming before us, the worst case scenario is that you have a 10-lot subdivision.
Right.
I mean, the reason the code has a provision that you have to own the land for 3 years before you do a family partition is because we have
Prevent that thing from
yeah,
happening.
we saw many of these things come up and there were lots for sale signs out on the side of the road. So
When you also have a provision in the code that you get 1 family partition per individual across the parish.
Right.
Ever, so to try to prevent that situation.
The situation, correct.
I mean, there's 3 or 4 issues that come up with this. One is the width of the road. The code specifically exempts family partitions from the road width issue in a major minor subdivision. Number 2, anything over 8 lots generally has to have a sewer treatment plant, a community sewer treatment plant that provision is exempted if all the lots are over 1 acre. So they've done that one. They would not be able to further subdivide the lots. As we've said, there's no restriction on those lots. The only other item would be that there's the requirement of the hard surface or gravel road. So you could condition the approval on a hard surface road that would have to be constructed before any building permits were issued for the first lot, all the way to the end of the servitude of passage.
One last question. There's a drainage servitude in lots 5 and 6. Is that an existing drainage servitude?
Correct. That is no, the servitude we're dedicating now, that is an existing ditch. It did not have a servitude, does not have a servitude on it right now. We're proposing to dedicate that servitude at this time.
And does it continue and connect eastward?
Correct.
So, oh yeah, but you don't control that property between Donnie Gotro and Richard Calloway.
Correct. We can only control the property where Ms. Thomasy owns.
Right.
We have any motion by the commission?
Well,
Actually, all you're doing is bottlenecking it.
no, the ditch is existing.
Okay,
We're
okay.
just now.
We've had our public hearing. I'm not trying to cut people off, but we've gone through the process here. It's time to make a motion or not make a motion and vote up and down on that.
This meets the letter of the code, so I find it difficult to.
We have met or exceeded all requirements from Mr. Poche's office, or comments.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve with the condition that the road has to be the 2 lanes width and hard surface. And I'm going to.
Motion to approve with a stipulation attached to it by Mr. Dumas.
Second.
Second by Mr. Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Nay.
opposition? Nay. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Aye.
Mr. Bishop?
Aye.
Mr. Schexnayder?
Nay.
And the chair votes against this partition. I'm in favor of development. This just looks too much like a subdivision, but be that as it may, the motion carries with a vote of 3-2.
I'd like to make one last comment if available.
Doesn't it die?
No.
No, it carried.
3-2.
3-2 in favor.
Okay.
If we require this lady to do a hard surface street to give property to her direct descending heirs, that's a substantial cost to a landowner.
That's the motion that was made and the motion that was
Code allows
approved.
for it. Put that condition on it.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, while I have you up there, Quality, we're at a point, are y'all pulling the other thing?
Yes, sir. We did get clarification that they did want to pull it from the agenda, so
Okay,
it's official. Put it in the minutes.
All
and
right,
it's-
so we're gonna go back briefly to item number 9B, which was the Melgrave subdivision final plat by Quality Engineering. That has been pulled from the agenda. Has anyone signed up to speak on that issue tonight? All right, hearing none, we will move on, and I guess we will see you at a later time on that.
Possibly. I apologize for the confusion, but
No
thank you for your
worries.
time.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, number 12 on the agenda is a public hearing to approve or deny the following preliminary plats, Copperhead and Industrial Subdivision. Mr. Robinson.
Mickey Robertson, MR Engineering and Surveying. Did we just lose our quorum? No, we're good.
Yeah, he's going to get a drink or something.
We're here tonight to present Copperhead Industrial Subdivision off Highway 30. We've met all the staff requirements, so we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Steph?
Yeah, it's, the subdivision meets the code. They're basically trying to cut a parcel out and do a roadway for future possible subdivision. Everything has been met. As far as all comments, if you have any specific questions about traffic or drainage, you can address those to the ERA.
And I will address those to the ERA. Mr. Sherrod, how are we on the traffic and drainage issues?
Drainage-wise, this is a unique project in that a portion of this project was considered in a, you can see on your plat, a large pond that'll be utilized for detention. The other portion of these tracks are so large, it's typical for commercial that until you know your exact footprint, what type of facilities coming in, they really don't dictate a specific pond on each of these lots at this time, but the study was approved acknowledging that in the event that any building permit came in to build on lots 2 or 3, that they would need to submit a site-specific related drainage study for that, and then we're in a agreement with that. That makes sense for these types of large commercial projects.
Is it your recommendation that if this gets approved tonight, that that stipulation be added to any motion to approve it?
You can, but the drainage study itself, if someone's pulled a building permit, they would need to go follow the master drainage study, what they prepared, and they're very clear that that's their recommendation. But if you wanted to button it up on this, you can just say any building permit on these lots needs to follow the approved drainage study that was presented as a part of this preliminary plat. In my opinion, that would be sufficient.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing on this matter. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak? All right, we'll close the public hearing on this matter. Do you have questions, comments, and/or a motion by the commission?
How does a large commercial industrial truck make a turnaround turn around at the end of this road with a hammerhead?
How did I know you were going to have an issue with the hammerhead?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make this simple. I'm going to make a motion to approve, subject to 2 conditions of approval. One of them is that any building permit must follow the drainage study filed with a preliminary plat. Is that correct? Okay. And the second one, that there's a cul-de-sac at the end of this road that meets suitable size and approved by the engineer, by the parish engineer.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve with 2 stipulations added to it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, item number 13, staff report.
Staff has no report.
Engineering staff report.
No engineering report.
All right, item number 15, do I have a motion to
Motion.
adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we will take a brief recess and be back for zoning.